I thank y'all very much to listening to That Will Never Work podcast. I have a guest, a small business owner, fueled by passion and desire for something different. And after burning out his 9-to-5 grind, he and his co-founder decided to take a leap. And in January of 2024, they combined their love for outdoors, a commitment to giving back, and a newfound passion for pickleball to create Canyon Pickleball. And despite having zero experience in e-commerce, they've grown and seen incredible growth in a short amount of time. And their journey proves that you can start anything you're passionate about with the right mindset, a willingness to learn, and the courage to ask for help along the way. I thank y'all very much for listening today. We'll be right back right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
I thank y'all very much for tuning in. I have none other than Evan. Thank you very much for coming on the show, bro.
Maurice, thanks so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Sure, no problem. So, as I said to you in the green room, a lot of my listeners, they have not broken away from their 9-to-5, 8-to-5. They're 11 for me, 11:30 to 8, whatever it might be. So some people have not broken away yet. How did you break away? Because the idea of those golden handcuffs keep us handcuffed for a reason. So how were you really to just say, you know what, I'm done?
Yeah. And I love the way you said it, the golden handcuffs, because that really just puts it into perspective. And I'll be honest with you, it was not easy. It has not been easy. I officially left my 9-to-5 almost 2 years ago. Literally, today's April 1st. In about 2 weeks, it'll be my 2-year anniversary from leaving 9-to-5 completely, which is awesome. So I'm super excited about that. But it has not been easy, right? For me, my path has been, pretty consistent of a lot of people probably listening, right? I went to school, went to college, went and got a, 9-to-5, thought that was kind of the path we're supposed to do. Worked in the corporate world, worked in kind of tech and a bunch of different companies for about 11 years. And it really wasn't until my daughter was born, or she was about to be born, that I was like, you know what? I'm 30 years old, 31 at the time. And I was like, I don't want to keep going down the same path, right? Like, everyone I knew before me, the same path. I wanted to be something different for my daughter. I wanted to show her there's other ways to make money outside of this normal grind. And so I don't recommend my path because I ended up leaving, and we'll probably get into this, but I ended up leaving from the corporate world. Like, I came back from paternity leave, tried to make it work, and then put in my 2 weeks notice, and then I was off to the races. So we'll get into kind of how I did that. But
right.
Yeah, it was my daughter that was really the catalyst for changing.
So I'm gonna tell you my story real quick, right? So I had just started a new position within my organization, and my corporate America job, and then I had gotten sick, right? And so I was on family medical leave for 3 months. Like, I took the whole 3 months. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea. I had this cough I couldn't get rid of. I had my tonsils taken out, all these things, right? Going on. And so I get back to work, and that it was the last Monday in July that I had gone back. I had been out since March, April. And so I go back that last Monday in July. That last Friday in July, I quit because I couldn't take it anymore. So I totally understand where you're coming from as far as, you know what, there is something better out there for me.
Yeah. And honestly, what it came down to also, right, my daughter was the catalyst, but at the time, I mean, really, and probably a lot of your listeners, right, it's the golden handcuffs, right? It's the health insurance benefits, which I get, right? It's the steady pay, it's all of those things. But what I started to realize, and when I was on paternity leave and I'm sitting there with my newborn daughter on my chest, and I'm thinking about my life, right? As any probably man would do with their newborn baby. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I'm just like, man, I actually didn't have that much job security in my corporate life, right? Like there was restructurings, no matter how well I performed, things might
Right.
change. And so I started to almost unravel this, like, kind of, I don't want to say lie, because there is 9 to 5s and 8 to 5s that can work really well and that are
Mm-hmm.
great companies and that can do well. But if you're not seeing the success you want and the fulfillment that you want, and you're
Mm-hmm.
not seeing that benefit of really being able to make the life that you want, maybe it's time for a change. So I just started to see those
Mm-hmm.
pieces unravel, and it's like it's kind of like once you see, like one little thread and it starts to get pulled, right? The whole thing
Right.
unravels, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, and that's why I can relate, because that was a life-changing experience for you. I mean, just like in my situation, it was a life-changing
Mhm.
experience that, some now granted, for a pregnancy, you're going the term, right? 8, 9 months, whatever it might be. And so you understand what that process is. For me, when I was sick, it was kind of immediate. I didn't expect that. But even when your child is born, there's still a level of surprise, right?
Right, right. And you're just like, all right, we're rolling with it, right? Like we're
And so as you stated, there's another level that you get to as you're putting your loved one on your chest. I mean, I've been there with my son and my daughter, and you're like, wow, like there is something more out there. There's something more for me. There's something more for this little one that I have to nurture and teach and all those type of things, whatever else. And for me as well, I especially when I have my boy, I'm like, yo, I want to coach. I want to be able to spend more time, especially something that I personally did not have growing up. So as you start looking at what your future is, right? How did you pick pickleball out of any other sport, any other outdoor activity?
Yeah, it's a great question, and honestly, it's funny too, right? So I, 2 years ago, almost, I left the corporate world. So that was 2023. I didn't start Canyon really until January of 2024. So from the
Hmm.
period of me leaving the corporate world to Canyon, there was a lot that happened, and I'll kind of go over that just briefly. But
Hmm.
this is also for people that are listening. When you're trying to figure out what might be the next path, or maybe you're thinking that there might be something else out there than like a 9 to 5, you don't need to do it all at once,
Hmm.
right? And so what I tell people all the time is, like, just because you start working on, for instance, a passion project or a
Hmm.
side hustle or something that's just of interest to you, that's really what happened to me,
Hmm.
right? My out from the corporate world was basically taking skills that I already had and
Hmm.
then doing that freelance. I just took the skills that I was already doing and I started to do it freelance. I started going on Upwork and Fiverr and just doing little odd jobs here or there. And so that was not the end goal. I didn't think, you know what, I'm going to be a freelance marketer for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was just like, this is my out, or this is my way to start building. Now, again, I don't recommend people just quit their 9 to 5 and start doing what I did. I was fortunate enough. I had a lot of savings. I had kind
Right.
of worked up to this point. I had my wife who had the health insurance, right? That
Hmm.
was very important. So
Hmm.
we had some of those, safety nets. But when I was going through from the period of, again, April of 23 to January, right?
Hmm.
It was really just like, let's just take the next step and the next step and the next step and see what interests me. And so as I was doing more with marketing and as I was doing more, I actually started working with a lot of e-commerce brands.
Hmm. Hmm.
I started doing some marketing for them.
Hmm.
Again, no experience with e-commerce really, like from a owner standpoint.
Right. Right.
And then I met this guy, my co-founder, through a marketing mastermind.
Okay.
And basically, probably like November, December of 23, he reached out to me. He was like, "Hey man, have you ever like wanted to start a business?" And I was
Hmm.
like, every day of my life, yes. And and then he was like, "Do you want to just set up like a weekly call where we just hop on and we basically just like, shoot the shit and see, what might stick. Maybe there's
Right.
something we can do together." And that kind of started to build not only a friendship but also like
Mm.
some business ideas.
Hmm.
And then it was really end of January that we were like, okay, I play pickleball a ton.
Hmm.
We love the outdoors a ton. Maybe there's something there. So it kind of started to build naturally. But again, pickleball was in no way the thought when I left the corporate world, right? It just happened to lead me there. And it's, while even still, this brand is a piece of what I do. So
Right.
that's a big piece I tell people, is like, you don't need to have it all figured out, right?
Mm. And so I want to rewind you back for a moment.
Sure.
You talked about how when you start your transition, you're looking at this baby, whatever else. But how important was it for your spouse to be supportive? Because here's the thing: sometimes we lose track of the people that are around us originally, that support system, right? And how important was that support system? Granted, everyone is not married, so you might have a best friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the situation is. So how important was it for you to have a support system to even say, hey, I'm leaving this to enjoy something that I really, trying to figure out?
Yeah, it was absolutely like crucial.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way that I could do it without the support system. Absolutely no way. And
Mm-hmm.
again, not everybody on that's listening is married, and but you've got
Right.
friends, you've got family, you've got other pieces, and so that's a big piece, right? It was for me with my wife, and then also with my friends and my family. I started to basically put it out into the world, right? I
Mm-hmm.
started, I posted on LinkedIn, I posted on Instagram saying that I was making this change, that I was doing this whole thing. And that not only gave me confidence, but it also just gave me more support back.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, my wife has been in these conversations for, months leading to that point. But
Right. Right.
yeah, that support is so necessary because I cannot stress it enough. Like, it's probably, it's similar to people that have kids that are listening to this too. And I'm sure you can, attest to this. It's being a business owner is, and being a parent too, it's the highest highs and the
Mm-hmm.
lowest lows.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have been at my lowest as an entrepreneur and a solopreneur, business owner. And I've also had the highest highs I've ever had. And
Right. Right.
so that is something that is damn near impossible to do by yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
got to have people around you. So you got to just start talking about it.
And I'm using that idea of having a support system because in order for you to move forward with that individual that you're talking about, hey, come on, Evan, let's have masterminds or whatever else. Sometimes we go a little more apprehensive and not being able to tell our dreams and all that type of stuff to be vulnerable for that individual to help build us up because we already have that support system here. You get what I mean? So no
Right.
matter what that situation is, that support system will see me to be successful. So I think that's why I kind of backtrack just a little because I
Yeah.
think that was a key point that a lot of us miss. Having that support system, that allows us to say, you know what, go ahead and fulfill your dream. Maybe this individual can help you here or that person can help you there.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, and this is something that I talk about all the time, just in my personal life too. It's like
Hmm.
the vulnerability. Like vulnerability to me, especially as like a man, it's something that we kind of
Right.
grew up, kind of not seen as like a strength. But to me, vulnerability is like
Hmm.
one of the biggest strengths of a dad, of a brother, of a friend, and especially of a business owner. Because, like, I'll be honest, like me and my co-founder, I mean, there's days where he's really high on something, he's feeling great, and
Hmm.
I'm like, this is the worst idea ever, we're crashing. And then there's days where I'm like, man, things are going great, and he's like, this is the worst, what are we doing here? And so you have to have that balance, but you got to be able to know how to be vulnerable. So, like, to your point, right, like being more vulnerable,
Hmm.
doing the work to understand like how to be vulnerable with your friends, right, like how to actually like not be scared of the emotions you have and actually
Hmm.
face them head on, right? Like that's the real strength of being a man, of being a business owner, being a dad, right?
Right. I mean, it is. And I think a lot of times we are nervous. We're still stuck in the traditional, we have to have an armor on all the time,
Yeah, yeah. And
and
rightfully so.
right. I mean,
Yeah,
and I agree on some levels, right?
totally.
But I can't be like that at home all the time,
Yep.
you know, um, especially if I have this individual over here who is my real life partner, who's going to be my partner throughout the whole process of life, right? May not be
Right.
a true business partner in the sense of a business partner, but we're in a business together.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Right. You probably got a mortgage together. You got loans
Right.
together, right? Like all these things, like these are all business.
So I think that's an important part to bring up to these, to the listeners that you brought up, that hey, I have this wife, she supported me, I was able to leap out. She did have so many more important things, the health insurance, right?
Right.
That
Right.
so these are key components that we're a little nervous about, i.e. the golden handcuffs. Because the other part is that for those 2 years, while you were chilling, whatever it was, like you said, you might have been doing work here and there, but for some of us, we may not be able to bring in the same amount of money that we were before So we're looking at this mortgage payment that's $1,000 a month, but we're only bringing in $800, and whoa, wait a minute, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to run back. So how were you able to stay encouraged in those moments where it felt
Sure.
like it wasn't enough?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, 100% honest that in the first couple of months, and I actually did a LinkedIn post about this recently. Like the first couple of months when I was, freelancing and everything, I think I was making like, God, $300 a month freelancing,
Mhm,
like not
mhm,
doing much. I was door dashing, right? Which
mhm.
honestly, I love door dashing. It was a blast. I got to just like drive around, get to meet people and stuff. So, but door dashing was more income than my freelancing was for the
Mhm,
first couple of months. So in
mhm.
those first months, yeah, it was impossible. And honestly, I had these tabs up from job sites like constantly where I was like, maybe I'll just apply, maybe I'll just see,
Right.
because again, like you said, the golden handcuffs, right? And so really what kept bringing me back was knowing, and honestly, this was a big piece before I left, was I was journaling and writing down basically how I was feeling when I was still working in the corporate world. I was
Mhm,
writing down things I was frustrated with, like my mental state, if I was more irritable towards my wife, was I like was I more active, was I less active, those kind of things.
mhm,
And I basically just kept referring back to that and remembering that, man, even though I was making so much, better money at the time, I'm actually making more money now than I was in my 9 to 5, which is great. But,
mhm,
but at the time, those golden handcuffs seemed so attractive, but then I
mhm,
kept reverting back to, man, my mental state is not worth any price, right? Like
mm.
my attention to my partner is not worth any price, right? Like, and so that just kept grounding me back and being like, stay the process, stay the course. Like it's like, and then again, you don't need to be getting, and it's a cliche thing, but you don't need to be getting better 100%, every day, right? It is
Mhm.
that 1% every day. So as long as I continue to see
Mm.
growth, right? I continue to see, oh, this client that was paying me $300 a month is now paying me 350 this month.
Mhm,
Oh, my
mhm,
client that was paying me 500 is now 550, right? I'm seeing
mhm.
the incremental growth. Now it's just okay, how can we, double this, triple this, scale it, right? But yeah, it was reverting back to those things that I was writing down.
And something that you're stating, like, just that 1% is enough, but for some of us, we feel as though it's not enough because we
Yep.
get caught up in looking at our peers, right? We're caught up in looking at the social media posts. We get caught up in, especially as an entrepreneur, you're looking at those individuals that are in the same industry, like, hey, how come I'm not doing exactly what they're doing? So how were you able to talk yourself or stay grounded enough to say 1% is enough, and not that I need to be 300 times that, tomorrow so I can get to $3 million or whatever it is. So how do you stay grounded in that?
That I would say it goes back to the support system. I think
Mm.
having that support system, I think again, putting this out into the world, right? Whether it's on Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's, LinkedIn, whether it's podcast, whatever it is,
Mhm.
putting what you're doing out into the world, because that again is what kept bringing me back. Because I mean, I
Mhm.
would get like my biggest presence is on LinkedIn. It's not huge, but it's, small.
Mhm.
And I would post things on LinkedIn about struggles I was dealing with or whatever, and I would get messages from people who I hadn't spoken to in years and who were
Mm.
like, man,
Mhm.
Evan, I love what you're doing. This is awesome. Keep it up. And I'd be like, okay, great. And I would bank those away. I would literally put them in a folder so I could go back and look at these messages and be like, okay, okay, okay. Like I'm doing well. So that support system and putting it out into the world, like I'm not big in manifesting necessarily, but I am big into the idea of like the world is like an algorithm.
Mhm.
And if you put out more of what you're doing and that positivity and that confidence, like you're going to get more of that back. And that's exactly what I saw as a business owner. So
Well, Evan, I really appreciate all the information you've given. There because some people were like, "Hey, it seemed like y'all all over the place," but no, we've covered a whole lot. But I think it's one thing that is focus, right?
yeah,
Staying grounded, staying humble, right? But
right.
making sure that you understand, like, hey, there is something greater for you out there. You don't have to be tied to this one situation for the rest of your life, especially if you feel like that there's a
Right.
purpose for your life and your why. So I appreciate you sharing, Evan. In all
Thank
honesty,
you.
bro, it was something that I know I could relate to myself as per my story from the very beginning. So Evan, please let the people know where they can find you and talk to you, and understand a little bit more about you. and find out a little bit more about your sport as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Evan Kuterbach. You can find me there. I got a newsletter that I drop every week that's really just talking about building side hustles, building businesses
Mm.
as a solopreneur, sharing my mistakes. And then for Canyon Pickleball, you can check us out at canyonpickleball.com. We would love to have you. If you haven't tried pickleball yet, obviously you probably heard about it. So we'd love to have you, and you can learn more about our brand there. But I'm just excited to chat with more people that are looking to go down this path, because it's scary for sure, and I get that.
I mean, and so I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't understand pickleball for a while, but the not most recently, I'd say within the last year and a half, my wife and I, there's a pickleball court down the street, and
Oh,
so
nice.
and so we'll go down there and just take a look, especially when we don't want to look at TV and things like that. Hey, you want to spend some quality time. I mean, my kids are grown now, like they're in their 20s, so they don't need me to babysit, right?
Right.
So we've just been trying to find ways to reconnect, and looking at something like pickleball. We're like, oh wow, like can we do that? Man, we too old. Like we can barely do tennis, a bigger racket, So yeah,
That's why pickleball is great. Yeah, that's why pickleball is great. It's for anybody, any size, any age, doesn't matter.
right. But I do have one more question though, Evan, before I let
Yeah.
you go, man. So is my would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
That's a great question. I would rather choose the 3 doors.
Okay.
I'd rather choose the 3 doors. I think that at the end of the day, like, there's going to be chances, there's going to be different opportunities that are going to come up. But,
Right.
I mean, I always say like the right choice is the right choice. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pick door number 1, it's the right choice. Right. If you go down this path, like it's the right choice. So, honestly, yeah, I'd take the 3 doors.
Really? So I
Yeah.
mean, you was a good sport with that, asking that question. I'm gonna ask you another off base question, right?
Let's do it.
So
Let's do
if
it.
you could sing a duet with anybody in the world, dead or alive, who would you sing it with?
Oh man. Hopefully they can cover some of the vocals, because I'm not a singer. I am a musician, but I'm not a singer.
Nice.
I'm gonna say either Gary Clark Jr. or Leon Bridges. I'm gonna say one of those two. Yeah.
Wow.
I love like kind of retro soul R&B stuff, and Leon Bridges is my favorite artist. So,
Nice.
yeah.
See, I knew I should have asked you that question. Yeah, man. But I appreciate you coming on, Evan.
No, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, sure. No problem. And of course, I thank y'all very much for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. All of Evan's information will be in the show notes. So just in case you're running, you're driving, jogging, whatever it might be, playing pickleball, if you will, all the information will be there. And I thank y'all very much for listening, and I'll talk to y'all a little later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chism on social media to stay connected, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?